Imagine trying to debate Ben Shapiro on socialism.
So let's say you own a pencil factory. Without me to assemble the pencils, all you would have is a pile of wood, yellow paint, graphite, rubber, and aluminum. That is worth less than the pencil when you try and sell it. Under socialism, those people are the workers, and the example I give is cooperative enterprise.
No, those are the people who are investing the risk. So if they carry the risk, then they get the benefit. The owner of the factory carries the risk, therefore he gets the benefit. The workers in the company you mentioned, if that company were to go bankrupt, they would carry the risk as well as the benefit. Who do you think put more in? The guy who spent millions of dollars buying all the machinery, leasing the place, making sure there was a management structure, doing the LLC formation, making sure all the tax code was in compliance, or you standing outside because you can stick a piece of graphite into a piece of wood?
How do you say that some people don't have privilege when you basically just said that trans people aren't valid? They're not a thing. They're just girls pretending to be boys or boys pretending to be girls.
No, it is not in the mind, okay? You're not a man if you think you're a man. And I didn't say pretending, or if I did, I shouldn't have said pretending. Let me amend.
You said playing.
Okay, I said a boy who thinks he's a girl. That's the usual phraseology I use. Not playing. I usually say a boy who thinks he's a girl or a girl who thinks he's a boy, which is technically what we're talking about here. As far as the actual psychological issues at play, it used to be called gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder. Now they call it gender dysphoria. The idea that sex or gender are malleable is not true. Okay, and I'm not denying your humanity if you're a transgender person. I am saying that you are not the sex to which you claim to be. But if you are going to dictate to me that I'm supposed to pretend that men are women and women are men, no.
Okay, but you're still saying these kids should not be accepted because they don't really fit in either place? They can't just
I'm saying that the Boy Scouts have a standard. You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be a boy to be a Boy Scout.
Where's that written though? Okay.
In the name Boy Scouts. Because this is a very because for all of human history, boy meant boy and girl meant girl. Boy did not mean girl.
People are very more dangerous culture.
Let me ask you this. Okay, I won't ask you how old. I will ask you how old you are. Okay, because you're young enough that it's probably not insulting to ask you. So.
I'm 22, so I'm probably young and naive, right?
No. Why aren't you 60? Why aren't you 60?
Because it.
And why can't you identify as 60? What is the problem with you identifying as 60?
Because it's not the same as gender. You can't just...
You're right. Age is significantly less important than gender. You can't magically change your gender. You can't magically change your sex. You can't magically change your age.
Right. I still don't understand how you're accepting these children that have gender.
It's not a matter of open-minded and accepting. I want them to get treatment that they see fit, but that's not involving me. The idea behind the transgender movement as a civil rights movement is the idea that all of their problems would just go away if I would pretend that they were the sex to which they claim membership. That's nonsense.
So you think it doesn't impact their identity at all, or their depression, or how they feel about themselves?
I think the idea that you're going to sacrifice the entire society's proper definition of sex, that is not a way to run a society. You can't sacrifice truth because some people are going to actually suffer because of the truth.
Last question about your Planned Parenthood thing. So why do you think it's not about controlling women's bodies and just about the separate life? After the baby is born, how come when people don't care about them? They don't care where they end up in foster care, they don't care about the mother being poor?
Okay, I do care about the mother being poor, I do care about foster care.
Okay, but why don't you advocate for that though? Because Planned Parenthood is supposed to prevent abortions.
Because, Planned Parenthood doesn't prevent abortions. They perform hundreds of thousands of abortions a year. They perform 300,000 abortions a year. They're the leading abortion mill in the United States.
Evidence for that, though.
That they perform 300,000 abortions a year from Planned Parenthood. That's my evidence. They don't dispute that. No one disputes that.
Birth control and cancer.
I'm not anti-birth control. If you want to go to Planned Parenthood and get a contraceptive, go for it. I don't care. I do care when you start killing babies. This is a problem for me.
But what about in rape and incest situations?
Okay, so here's the question. First of all, important to note, rape and incest are not only a vast minority of abortion cases, they're an extraordinarily low percentage of abortion cases. So if we can first stipulate that all the other abortions are bad, then we can talk about that other one. Can we do that?
I mean, no, I believe a woman should have the right to move on.
Got it. So it's an excuse, right? So it's an excuse so that we can say that, so that we can take the marginal case and then say that the marginal case applies to all cases. Okay, that's again, faulty thinking. I have one question for you and one question only on abortion. Does the vagina, the vaginal canal, magically confer personhood? Answer, does the vagina magically confer personhood? Yeah, raised hands are okay. You, sir.
No, the first breath does.
The first breath confers personhood. Okay, so if the baby is in the womb and is exactly the same size and has not yet breathed, and you take a knife and you stab the baby in the head, a fully formed 9-month-old baby, it is not a human. The only thing that makes it a human is when it takes a breath. It has to independently breathe.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to stick to it, yeah, because I'm also pro-capital punishment and pro-selective suicide. So I'm going to stick with it.
By the way, I'm for capital punishment too, because people who kill people should be killed, but babies who have not killed people should not. And this is my basic position on abortion.
So let's say you own a pencil factory. I'm a worker in that pencil factory. You can have all the machinery, you can buy all the raw materials you want, but without me, and presumably many others like me, to assemble the pencils, all you would have is a pile of wood, yellow paint, graphite, rubber, and aluminum.
Okay.
That would be worth, and that is worth less than the pencil when you try and sell it. And yet, all of that value added by labor, apart from the wages that you give me, which, if we're being honest, there is a major power imbalance in our ability to negotiate that.
If all that putting the pencil together requires is basic use of your prefrontal cortex, then yes, your labor is alienable at lower rates than if you are a doctor. That's not the fault of the person who owns the machinery.
But if you didn't have workers like me and your pencil factory, and you were just one man.
But I do. I have millions of people who are willing to do that voluntarily for me.
If you're just one person trying to assemble pencils, you're not going to get very far. You need workers. Capital needs labor infinitely more than labor needs capital. That's why you have worker cooperatives where the workers are the ones. I fundamentally disagree on the distinction between capital and labor. Capital is just a term for money. If you're talking about money, money does not grow from the ground. Money only has value because it was traded for labor at one point, or the products of labor. So if I take my money and I buy machinery, I have invested my labor in doing that because I didn't get the money from nowhere. Even if I got it from my parents didn't get the money from nowhere. The people who built the machines required me to trade something of value to them in order for me to obtain the machines. The people who invented the machines required people to pay them in order to get the patent to that machine so they could build the machine. The problem that I'm seeing in what you're saying is you have still failed. If what you're talking about is a system of voluntarism, you still have not named any area in which we disagree, and yet you're telling me that you're a socialist and I'm a free marketer. So one of us has got this wildly wrong, and I'm pretty sure it's not me. The differentiation I draw, and I'm not alone in this, I'm not one person trying to redefine anything, the differentiation I and many others like me draw between socialism and capitalism is that under capitalism, when you as the owner of the factory, you give me a wage. The wage could be $7.25, it could be $15, it could be whatever an hour. Right? But you give me a wage. All the additional profit above the made from selling the pencils or whatever good you produce above what is reinvested into the company ultimately goes to you or the investors, those who own shares in the means of production. Under socialism, those people are the workers, and the example I give, again, is cooperative enterprise.
No, those are the people who are investing the risk. So if they carry the risk, then they get the benefit. The owner of the factory carries the risk, therefore he gets the benefit. The workers in the company you mentioned, if that company were to go bankrupt, they would carry the risk as well as the benefit. If the company goes bankrupt, and this guy has to pay off all of his debts, the worker may lose his job, but he's not the one who's going to incur the debt of having gone bankrupt. If you incur risk, then you're the one who pays the downside. The worker does not pay the downside. Okay, it is the investor who pays the downside, who invested in all the machinery, who sunk millions of dollars into making your labor productive. Because guess what? Your labor is without that machinery. Gunk. Nothing. You don't have a pencil to put together. You don't got the wood. You don't got the paint. You don't got the rubber. You don't got the metal. You got nothing. Right? You're sitting there, standing outside, twiddling your thumbs. It required somebody to invest. Who do you think put more in? The guy who spent millions of dollars buying all the machinery, leasing the place, making sure there was a management structure, doing the LLC formation, making sure all the tax code was in compliance, or you standing outside because you can stick a piece of graphite into a piece of wood? Now we're done. Why are we mainstreaming delusion?
It's not delusion.
Why would you call it delusion?
Because Caitlyn Jenner, I'll call him Caitlyn Jenner.
No, it's her. You're not being polite to the pronouns.
Because
disrespectful.
Okay, forget about the disrespect. Facts don't care about your feelings. It turns out that every chromosome, every cell in Caitlyn Jenner's body is male with the exception of some of his sperm cells. It turns out that his brain structure is male. It turns out that he still has all of his male appendages. How he feels on the inside is irrelevant to the question of his biological sex.
I don't agree with that. I'm not on that train. I'm not on that train. She wants to be called she. I'm going to call her she. I just have a problem with the message and the messenger.
Nuclei. Yeah, go ahead.
Chromosomes don't necessarily mean you're male or female.
Gender.
With gender
identity. Go ahead. No, so
especially, but even so, you have a thing like Klinefelter's syndrome. So you don't know what you're talking about. You're not educated on genetics.
Would you like to discuss the genetics?
Well, no.
What are your genetics?
So let's stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
No, I know. Well, but wait. To be fair, but to be fair, you're actually being rude. And that's not fair.
I'm sorry, it's not rude to say that someone who's biologically a male is a male. Someone who's biologically male is a male.
But Mr. Shapiro, you knew very well that saying that to Zoe would be egregiously insulting.
It's not a matter of insulting or inflammatory.
It
is.
is. No, well,
you're a male. Dr. Drew is a male.
Sir, you're right. Hey, on paper, what is a fact is a fact, and I can't deny that. But you knew that going in, that saying that to Zoe would be aggressively insulting.
It's not a matter of aggressively insulting.
It is.
The entire discussion is whether we are embracing mental illness and delusion as a society. That's the entire discussion.
No. This is just somebody that's
I don't hate you. I have sympathy for you. I feel terrible for you.
No, you do hate. You're consumed with hatred. That is who you are. You're a little man.
You know me?
You're a little man. Actually, I do.
Let's stick to the topic. Let's not these first.
But I mean, that's okay. He can be whatever he wants. But the point is,
right? That's what this is all about, isn't it?
It is. It is. But there's ramifications for hate speech. But the point is that.
Ramifications?
Let me finish.
Go ahead. Finish, sorry.
Little boy.
Zoe.
Okay.
Zoe.
So, I'm sorry.
It's all, everybody.
Buttons are being pushed.
Go ahead.
The whole point is that Jenner this will come crashing down.
You come from, like, in your mind, a moralist, right?
I come from a basic biological reality.
But, okay,
it's not a moral thing. If somebody wants to mutilate their body, that's their choice.
It's not mutilation, but can we just talk about
cutting off testicles is mutilation.
Can we talk?
Here's Peter Berg, best known for producing Friday Night Lights. He posted this picture on Instagram with the caption, quote, "One man traded 2 legs for the freedom of the other to trade 2 balls for 2 boobs."
Yeah.
Guess which man made the cover of Vanity Fair? It was praised for his courage by President Obama and is to be honored with the Arthur Ashe Courage Award by ESPN. That's similar stuff you're reacting
to. First of all, of course, a wounded soldier deserves all the accolade and respect in the world. They save lives. Well, guess what? There's many different ways to save lives. I believe that Caitlyn Jenner bringing this conversation to the forefront is saving lives. And at the end of the day, can you look at the fact that more than 50% of transgender youth attempt suicide because of discrimination, because of shame? Does that try to alter the way that how you should project your thoughts? What if they're watching right now? What if there is a teen out watching right now that is struggling with who they are, living their truth?
Let's talk about some of the biological facts for 1 second.
No, I want you to answer me. What would you say to a teen right now that really believes 100%?
Allow me to answer your question.
I'm full of emotion right now because people die.
I've noticed.
Clearly, it doesn't bother you because you're sitting there stone-faced and cold-hearted.
Of course it bothers me when people commit suicide, which is one of the reasons I don't believe that transgender surgery is the solution, considering that the suicide rate after transgender surgery is precisely the same as the suicide rate before transgender surgery.
Yeah, because then technically they're not passing, and then they're open for more discrimination.
Okay, the transgender suicide rate is approximately 0.8 in every 100. The only comparable suicide rate in human history of which I am aware is Jews living under Austrian and German rule during World War II. To liken the treatment of transgenders in the United States or the Western world to Jews living under Nazi. No, I'm actually comparing apples to apples in terms of the suicide rate.
But I think if you can see what discrimination
why don't we
does,
look at actual solutions?
Why is then stop hating, tolerate.
It's not. I'm happy to tolerate. Whatever people want to do is what they want to do. But the idea that the surgery itself is something to be glorified, to be reveled in the mental illness. So the goal would be to allow people to live with it in an appropriate way.
To flourish, right?
To flourish.
Not to require them to assign to one gender or another, but to flourish.
Right. Without imposing on the rest of society a necessity for fictionalized thinking. Okay, because that actually is a cost to society. I'm sorry, but my grandfather was bipolar, okay?
Yeah.
And he thought that the radio was talking to him.
Yeah.
They put him in a mental hospital. They did not tell him the radio was talking to him to allow him to live a better life. They put him into a mental hospital, and then they gave him lithium, which allowed him to live a better life. Looking for better solutions than transgender surgery would be a better solution than pretending that transgender surgery is the cure.